Sure. Got it. Okay, we're ready to start. And we're going to chant first. Let's get the guitar. Okay, let's pick a nice song. Nice song about Krishna. Vaishnava Thakur Yar Sari Say Karuna Gauri Vaishnava Thakur Yar Sari Say Karuna Jaya Shodaya Maya Tomara Jarana Dauri Diyapada Jaya Shodaya Maya Tomara Jarana Jaya Bega Dharma, Jaya Dosha Shodi, Jaya Guna Deva Say. Jaya Bega Dharma, Dosha Shodi, Jaya Guna Deva Say. Satsanga Deo Amare Mochachi Sangayase Jaya Satsanga Deo Amare Mochachi Sangayase Amara, Boy Bolo, Adina Sankirtane. Ekaki Amara, Boy Bolo, Adina Sankirtane. Pakore Shata Bindudiya Deho Krishna Namadane Tumikui Pakore Shata Bindudiya Deho Krishna Namadane Krishna say tomorrow, DJ Paro, tomorrow, Chikati Bodhi Jaiva Amito Kangala Krishna Krishna Bodhi Jaiva Vaishnava Thakur Yarsa Karuna Say Karuna Kori Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paravatakacharya All Suteta Satashi Shimad His Divine Grace Savaya Chalananda Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anandakoti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Vilas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Gaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shadwaita Gadadha Shiva Siddhi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopi Gopinath Sayam Kunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Maturadam Ki Jai Jagannath Swami Ki Jai Yamunamai Ki Jai Srimati Vilasi Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So, let us read the translation. O Venerable Vaishnava, Ocean of Mercy, be merciful unto your servant. Give me the shade of your lotus feet, and I hold on to your lotus feet. Teach me to control my 6 passions, rectify my 6 faults, bestow upon me the 6 qualities, and offer unto me the 6 kinds of holy association. So, someone asked the question about those 6. Read the Upadeshamrita, and you'll find all those 6 listed. Beginning with the 6 passions, Vachavegam, Manasakrodavegam, Jivavegam, Udrapashtavegam. Anyway, read the Nectar of Instruction by Prabhupada. I do not find the strength to carry on alone the Sankirtan of the holy name of Hari. Please bless me by giving me just 1 drop of faith with which to obtain the great treasure of the holy name of Krishna. Krishna is yours. You have the power to give him to me. I'm simply running behind you, shouting, Krishna, Krishna, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Ki Jai. So, we're going to go on with our reading of the Jaiva Dharma by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So, Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pasaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachani Nivashesha Shinyavadi Paschachade Shatari Omagana Timiranda Shagranjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmelitam Yena Tasmai Shigurve Namaha. And now we will share the screen. We offer our respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of our spiritual master, so kindly open our eyes with the torchlight of knowledge while we are blinded in the darkness of ignorance. Here we go. So we are beginning chapter 13. And chapter 13 is entitled, hold on a second, I gotta move my chat window so I can read. It is entitled Nitya Dharma and Sambandha Abhideyam Prayojana Pramana and Prameya. Okay. So let us, actually before I read, I'm going to translate for you all the meaning of these different words. Nitya Dharma means eternal nature of the soul, eternal activities of the soul. Okay? That's Krishna consciousness. There's also Anitya Dharma, which means the temporary activities of the soul or the individual in this world. And Sambandha means the understanding. I know we've gone over this before, but it's important to understand the reiteration. Sambandha means the understanding of the different tattvas. Tattvas means Krishna, the material energy, the spiritual energy, and the jiva soul, and the relationship between each one of them, the nature and the relationship of all those tattvas. Abhideya means the process of devotional service, achieving the goal, and prayojana is the goal. Okay. And so pramana, okay, is a good one. Pramana means basically what you accept as evidence. Got it? Like there's the Vedic pramana. What's the evidence? Shruti pramana it's called. And there's also evidence from your senses. So what is the bona fide, incontrovertible evidence that we accept? And prameya, the process and the goal. So anyway, so let's go on. So a little after sunset the next day. So this is, of course, Brajanath, who's just come to Krishna consciousness, having a discussion with his Guru Babaji Maharaj. A little after sunset the next day, Vrajanath came to Shiva's Angan and sat on the platform under the bakula tree. The old Babaji had developed some affection for him. He was waiting for Brajanath. When he heard the sound of his coming, he quickly came out to the yard. He embraced Brajanath and, bringing him to a bhajan kutir surrounded by jasmine at one side of the yard, made him sit down. Brajanath took the dust from his feet and felt himself successful. He said politely, Babaji, please give me teachings about Dasha Mula, which is the basis of Chaitanya's philosophy. So Mula basically means the foundation or root, and Dasha means 10. So in other words, there's 10 basic principles, statements that are the very foundation of Lord Chaitanya's philosophy. Wow, that's pretty easy. Hearing the suitable question, the old Babaji with glad heart said, I will speak about Dashamula. You are learned. Please understand while contemplating the real meaning of the verses. So this is the Sanskrit, the Dashamula, and of course the translation follows. Let me just check the sound level, make sure we're all right. Hare Krishna. I think the sound needs to be higher. Hold on a second. Oh, I got to change the speaker. 1 second. Audio settings. Sound looks high enough. Okay. Audio settings. Okay. Here's the Sanskrit. Amnaya prahatatvam harimiha paramam savashaktim risabdim tad vinakshams jivan prakriti kavallitan tan vimuktam cha bhavet veda veda prakasham sakalamapi hare sadhana shuddha bhaktim sajam tat pritim evetyupadishyati Janangara Chandra Swayam Sa. The Vedas teach the following. In other words, what's mentioned here is the pramana. The pramana is the Vedas as our evidence. Pramana means evidence. So that's the Vedas, that's the pramana. They teach, so the Vedas are our pramana, or source of knowledge. Or in English, you would say epistemology, the study of knowledge. Okay? That's a big word for all of you. To First one after the pramana, and then you got the prameya, what is to be known. So Krishna is the supreme tattva, the supreme. Well, explain what tattva is before. Tattva means eternal truth, basically, or supreme entity, or supreme category, whatever. That's 3. Krishna is endowed with all Shaktis. So Prameya means that is to be known. What is to be known? 4. Krishna is the ocean of Ras. Okay, let me describe what Shaktis means. Shaktis means energies. Material energy, spiritual energy, and all the divisions of material and spiritual energies. Okay? So, 4. Krishna is the ocean of Ras. Ras means like the taste from different activities and relationships. So he's the ocean. All different tastes come from Krishna, and Krishna experiences all different tastes. 5. The jivas, that's us, that's all the living entities other than those who are Shaktis or energies of the Lord and the Lord himself. The jivas are all separated anshas of the Lord. Ansha means part. Of the Lord. In other words, separated parts. Anshas, parts, or parts and parcels, as Prabhupada would say that. 6, in the bound state. So in other words, we have the same nature as God, but we're separated, eternally individual. Okay? So in the bound state, that means the state we're in right now, conditioned by the modes of nature. The jivas are under the influence of matter due to their tatashta nature. Tatashta nature means marginal. Tatashta means marginal. Marginal means you can go either way. We're on the margin. And the example given by Bhaktivinoda Thakur as far as what marginal means is the explanation of a metaphor. And that metaphor is the demarcation between the shore and the ocean when you're walking on the beach. So you're walking on the beach and there's water, and where the water stops, that's the shore. And of course I understand there's waves, so everything's fluctuating all the time. So that's the living entity. Sometimes the living entity is in the spiritual water, sometimes he's in the dry land, material dry land. All right. So we are under the influence of matter in our bound state, not in the liberated state. The next one is about the liberated state. In the liberated state, the jivas are free from the influence of matter due to their tatashta nature. So you notice in 6 and 7, it's the being bound or being liberated is due to the tatashta nature, because the tatashta nature means you can go either way based on your desire. 8. The jivas and the material world are both different from and identical to the Lord. So here's, we're part of the Lord, or like a limb, anksha. Anksha is nice, means a limb of the Lord. But here in the 8th verse of the verse or statement of the Dashamula, you'll find Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy of Achintya Beta Tattva, that the soul is the one and different from the Lord, and actually all the material energies and spiritual energies are one and different from the Lord, and that's what's mentioned here. The jivas and the material world are both different from and identical to the Lord, and also the spiritual energy is identical to and different from the Lord too. 9. So pure bhakti is the sadhana of the jivas. So that is the process, or sadhana. And 10 is the prayojana, the goal. Priti for Krishna is the saja, or the goal. We mentioned saja means the goal. And so priti, love for Krishna, is the saja, or the goal. Got it? So these 10 principles are very important. It's not that you have to memorize them in order, but you should know them. Because knowing them means knowing the Krishna conscious philosophy. That's really important. It's called Dashamula. And right now on the GBC, we are discussing coming out with our expression of the Dashamula, which is going to be pretty much the same as Bhaktivinoda Thakura's expression. But most likely it will include Srila Prabhupada in our ISKCON Dashamula, as far as Prabhupada's prominent position in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. It may say something like, pure bhakti is the sadhana of the jivas, and that'll be the same. Priti for Krishna is the saja, and something like, and an example of that is His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The Supreme Lord Gaurachandra, that's Lord Chaitanya, taught these 10 principles to the faithful people. The first is pramana, and the other are prameya. Prameya is what is to be known in the process for knowing it. Got it? Pramana and prameya. Pramana, again, pramana is what you accept as evidence. And going back to number 1, the Vedas are evidence. Incontrovertible evidence. Incontrovertible evidence means evidence that is perfect. Why is it perfect? Because it comes from Krishna, from the breathing of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Other evidence can be accepted or rejected based upon the evidence of the Vedas. That's really important. We have other evidence that comes from the senses, other evidence that comes from history, other evidence that comes from other people's statements, other evidence that comes from logic and reasoning. But these types of evidence are not perfect. The perfect type of evidence is dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam, evidence that comes from a perfect person, a perfect omniscient person, not only a perfect person. I mean, pure devotees are perfect, but they're not omniscient. There's a difference. So, we're talking about Krishna is the only source of incontrovertible evidence. And of course, the pure devotee gives us incontrovertible evidence because he is speaking what Krishna spoke, and his speaking can be verified or checked and balanced, if you want to use that term, by the Vedas. So there's 3 standards here, that Guru, Shastra, and Sadhu. And ultimately, the Vedas are the highest of all those 3 standards. However, the understanding of the Vedas, the proper understanding, has to be given by a sadhu. Why is that? Because the Vedas, as we mentioned before, many times, many classes, the Vedas are multi-branched. They deal with people in different situations. For example, let's say one of my disciples comes up to me and he says to me, what is the nature of the soul? And I will answer based upon the Vedic conclusions. The soul is eternal, part and parcel of Krishna. Okay. Perfect answer, but I'm not the source of that answer. The source of that answer is Krishna. I am just repeating in my own words what Krishna has said in the Gita and other literatures. However, if that same humble disciple comes up and says, Dear Guru Maharaj, what company would you like me to invest in the stock market? And, of course, I shouldn't get into it, but let's say I even gave my opinion. That is not perfect knowledge. Because my adhikar, a right to transmit perfect knowledge, is constrained by the Vedic statements. That's all. And other things I say are relative. Like I may say, Cook this food for the deities. So if you cannot find a statement of the Vedas that say, cook the food for the deities, or let's go to, let's go to New York for the Rath Yatra, then that's a relative statement, not an absolute statement. Okay? All right, I think that's really easy to understand. The statements of Anaya scriptures are the chief proof, which is just what I said. But they have to be understood by a sadhu, or presented to us and distilled by a sadhu, because there are statements from dealing with different modes of nature and people in different modes of nature. By these statements, the following 9 topics are taught. So remember, that's pramana. Got it? Pramana. Everything which acts as a proof for the prameyas, that is what is to be proven. Got it? So you have to establish. Anyway, this is important when you're establishing an argument. First of all, you have to establish what you accept as evidence. Even in science, you have to do that. So what do we consider to be bona fide evidence? Then you could get on with your whatever else you're doing. Everything that acts as a proof for the prameyas, that is what is to be proved, is called pramana. Got it? Pramana is evidence or proof. This verse is a summary of the 10 points. What I will later speak is the first verse explaining pramana. From the 2nd to the 8th verse, Sambandha Tattva is explained. Sambandha means basically the relationship and nature of the tattvas. Remember? Tattvas. I know I'm repeating myself, but it's important for everyone to understand these concepts. Tattva means Krishna. There's several different tattvas, sometimes 3, sometimes 4, because one of the 3 is sometimes divided into 2. Okay? So the 3 basic tattvas are Krishna and his expansions, the living entities, jiva souls, us, which is the marginal energy of the Lord, and the third one is the energy of God, the energies of God. And sometimes one may divide these energies or energy of God into 2 different categories, material and spiritual. But in one sense, they're one. Okay? So those are the 3 tattvas. So the nature of those 3 tattvas, the nature of God, the nature of the jiva soul, and the nature of the Krishna's energies, is being described in the, let's go back, in the Dashamula. So Krishna is the supreme tattva, that's tattva. Krishna endowed with all shaktis, tattva. Krishna is the ocean of rasa, tattva. The jivas are separated arms of the Lord, that's the tattva of the jivas. And the bounds say the jivas are under the influence of matter due to their tatashta nature, that's the tattva. And it's also the tattva of the jiva, the tattva described of the material energy in the liberated state. The jivas are freed from the influence of matter due to their tatashta nature. Yes. That's that's life. that's tattva also. The jivas in the material world are both different from and identical to the Lord. That's also a description of the tattvas and their relationships between them. So like the relationship, that's called sambandha. And this liberation of the jivas are free. So that's the relation of the jiva with matter in number 7, and the relation of the jiva freed from the influence of matter in 7, and 6 is the jiva under the influence of matter. So that's the relationship between the tattvas. And then 9 is the sadhana, or the process, which is called abhideya. Abhideya means the process for achieving the goal. So pure bhakti is the sadhana of the jiva. Sadhana means the practice. Abhideya also the same thing. And then the goal which is called prayojana, priti, love of Krishna, is the saja or goal. Saja also prayojana, which is the goal. Hope that's clear. The statements of the Vedas received through Guru Parampara are called Amnaya. So, in other words, we have to understand the statements of the Vedas through Guru Parampara, because otherwise we will not be capable of understanding them, as mentioned in the Mahabharata. Tarko Pratishta Shutina Vibhina. One cannot understand the absolute truth by logic, by reading the Vedas, but only by Mahajanayena Gatasapanta, accepting the path laid out by the great devotees who are in disciplic succession. In other words, we need Prabhupada to explain. The Vedas as well as Smritis, okay, so let's talk about what Vedas are. Here, the Vedas are used in this particular context, because the word Veda means knowledge, so the Vedas here in this particular context are used to indicate the four original Vedas, the Rig, Sama, Yajur, and Atharva Veda, along with the Upanishads. And then the Smritis are considered supplementary literatures, but by many people, the Smritis are also considered Vedic. So, just a little technical thing. Smriti means to remember. Shruti means that which is heard, to hear. So the Vedas are heard, the original Vedas, four Vedas, and the Upanishads are heard, and Smriti, and it's also memorized, but Smriti means the information, the things that are written down, basically. Like Bhagavad Gita, the Vedas as well as Smritis, which is supplementary Vedic literatures, like Bhagavad Gita, and direct perceptions which support this are called pramana or proof. In other words, we accept as proof the Vedic literature coming down or given to us by Guru Parampara. Got it? That's our pramana. That's our evidence. That's our incontrovertible evidence. Very important to understand the principle of pramana, or evidence, or epistemology, if you want to use a Western nomenclature. Okay. By this pramana, it is determined that Hari is the supreme tattva. Hari is the name of Krishna. Of course, when we chant the Mahamantra, Hara, Hare, 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 not Hari Krishna. Some people chant Hari Krishna, Hari Krishna. No, it's Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hara, Hara is the name of Krishna, the energy of Krishna. And Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna is a means of praying to Krishna's energy, particularly the internal energy, hopefully to engage us in Krishna's service. Okay, all right. That Hari, that's Krishna, is the supreme tattva, the supreme category. He is endowed with all shaktis, energies. He has all these energies, which are all servants of him. He is an ocean of sweet ras. What does that mean? Sweet taste. He's an ocean. That's a poetic statement. Ocean. The bound and liberated jivas, us, are his vibhinanshas. That's just the name of our category. We're separated parts and parcels. The bound jivas are under maya or illusion. Maya in this context means illusion. It could also mean energy, but in this context it means illusion. We are under illusion. We are thinking that we are something that we're not. I'm thinking I'm this body, but I'm not. The liberated jivas, that's liberated entities like us, are free from maya or illusion. Very easy to understand, hopefully. the whole universe made of conscious and unconscious factors. There's something I have to unpack for you. Is a manifestation of the Lord's achintya shakti of difference and non-difference. So in other words, what is the conscious factor is the jiva soul. Got it? And the unconscious factor is the gross material energy and subtle material energy. Like wood or earth, earth, water, air, fire, ether. These are not conscious. This table, that of course you can't see the table, is not conscious. Ultimately, this body is not conscious. It's not conscious. Of course, I'm not going to hit my head continually. The soul is conscious. And the body is unconscious. Or never was conscious. Sometimes we use the word unconscious to mean someone who used to be conscious. But the body is unconscious, conscious, or not conscious would be a better expression. So the combination of these whole things, that's the material energy. This world is a combination of conscious entities, this is the jiva soul, and the bodies they're driving, which are unconscious, and the other aspects of the material energy, which is also unconscious. And all this is a manifestation of the Lord's achintya shakti. It means that the whole thing's inconceivable. Okay? Krishna has an inconceivable energy that makes everything inconceivable. It always was inconceivable, and it will always be inconceivable. Okay. Difference and non-difference. That's Lord Chaitanya's philosophy. Everything is Krishna, and everything is different from Krishna simultaneously. It's the same as Krishna, just like the sunshine is the same as the sun, but it's also different than the sun. Bhakti is the only sadhana, is the only practice. Sorry, let me translate. Love is the only practice, and love for Krishna is the only goal, saja. So love is the only practice, and love for Krishna, pure love for Krishna, priti means pure love. Pure love for Krishna is the only goal. Hope that's understandable. Hearing the meaning of the summarizing verse, Brajanath said, I do not have any questions for now. Hearing the first verse, I will ask what arises in my heart. Hearing this, Babaji said, good, I will speak the first verse. Please hear attentively. Swata siddho vela hari dayata vela pravrittita pramanam satprapta pramiti vishayantanavaviddan tatapatyaakshari pramiti sahitam sadayati na ayuktistarkakya pavishyati tata shaktirakita. The self-perfect Vedas, or Naya, that's pramana, evidence, received in the Sampradaya of Brahma, who received the mercy of the Lord, produces 9 topics as proof, with the help of direct perception, sense perception, etc., which follows the Vedas. Arguments arising from material logic are unable to deliberate on the inconceivable. So in other words, there's other types of proof, but the incontrovertible proof is the Vedas that are given to us through disciplic succession. Remember that. That's our primary pramana. Primary. So, okay. So Brajanath said, is there proof in the Vedas that Brahma gave instructions to his disciples? Okay, Brahma was the first person in the universe. But what is the proof that he actually gave the instructions to his disciples based upon what he heard from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or what he got through his heart? So, Babaji said yes. It says in the Mundaka Upanishad 1.1, Brahma Devanam Pratama Sambhabhuva Vishvashakarta Bhuvanasya Gopta Sabrahma Vidyam Sarvavidya Pratishtam Atharvaya Jeshta Putraya Praha. Brahma, creator of the universe and protector of the worlds, appeared previous to the Devatas. Devatas are the demigods, the people who work for Lord Brahma and work for God. Okay? They're his employees. He spoke spiritual knowledge, the basis of all knowledge, to his eldest son, Atharva. So Brahma's eldest son in this particular context is Atharva. Of course, I just mentioned that Narada Muni is his oldest son. Anyway. Yanaksharam Purusham Veda Satyam Ravacha Tam Tattvato Brahma Vidyam. He spoke spiritual knowledge to him by which one knows the Supreme Lord in truth. That's from the Mundaka Upanishad. Vrajana said, the sages wrote in the Smritis the meaning of what the Vedas say. Is there proof of this in the Smritis? So, the Babaji here is going to quote from the topmost Smriti, topmost Purana, which is known as the Srimad Bhagavatam. So here's the quote. Babaji said, this is stated in the crest jewel, that means the topmost of all scriptures, Bhagavatam. Kalena nashta palaye vaniham veda sangitam mayado brahmane purukta dharma yasham madatmaka. By the influence of time, the Vedic knowledge was lost at the time of annihilation. Therefore, when the subsequent creation took place, I spoke to Brahma the Vedic knowledge by which bhakti is the essence. That's Bhagavatam 11th canto, 14th chapter, text 3. So, anyway, that's Krishna speaking. So, Tena Prokta Swaputraya Manave Purva Jayasa Tato Brigvada Diyogyam Sapta Brahma Maharshaha. Brahma spoke this Vedic knowledge to his eldest son, Manu. So here's Brahma's eldest son, Manu. I guess in different cycles, there was a different eldest son. And the 7 great sages, headed by Bhrigu, then accepted the same knowledge. Then those 7 sages accepted the same knowledge from Manu. That's Bhagavatam 11:14-4. And then these sages passed the knowledge to their sons. That's Sampradaya or disciplic succession. Brajana said, why did it become a Sampradaya? Why did it become a disciplic succession? Okay, to protect people, which you'll see here. Babaji said, many people in the world are led astray by the faults of Mayavada. Mayavada means to think, oh, everything is one, do your own thing, whatever you do, it'll be all right. That's Mayavad philosophy. In other words, the whole material world is Maya. The Lord is Maya. Everything is Maya. And when you get out of Maya, then you get out of Maya, and you realize you're Brahman. But they don't consider Brahman to be differentiated. In other words, to have variety or personality or love or anything. The Brahman is just like neutral state. The devotees free from faults, if they do not form a group, find it hard to obtain devotee association. So in other words, devotees need to form a group. And we have our group, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Got it? Thus it is written in the Padma Purana, a very important verse here, about the necessity of receiving mantras and knowledge from disciplic succession. Sampradaya vinaya mantraste nishpala mataha sabrahma ruja sanaka vaishnava kshiti panavaha. The mantras give no result if devoid of a sampradaya. If you're not receiving your mantras from a bona fide guru in a bona fide disciplic succession, it doesn't work. Just like if you go to a man who says he's a professor at a university, let's take one of the universities near here, NC State, and he says, I'm going to give you college credit if you come to my house and study with me and give me some extra money. I'll personally tutor you and I will personally give you credit towards your degree. And so you go there. But if he's not connected, you just wasted your money and wasted your time. So you have to check out, is that professor actually bona fide, connected, authorized by his school? Otherwise, he's a bogus person. Of all the sampradayas, Brahma's is the oldest. So we got other sampradayas. We got Brahma Sampradaya, Rudra Sampradaya, headed up by Lord Shiva, Lakshmi Sampradaya, headed up by Lakshmi, and the Kumara Sampradaya, headed up by the four Kumaras, and logically, Brahma is the oldest. So Brahma, it is continued to now. There's no possibility of interpolation of any portion of the best scriptures, such as the Vedas. Vedangas, that means the branches of the Vedas, and Vedanta. Vedanta is like the Vedanta Sutra, the commentary on the Upanishads. If they come through a sampradaya from ancient times. In other words, we accept what the acharyas have said from ancient times. We don't give a radically new meaning of a particular verse or a particular section of the Vedic literatures. We accept the meaning of the great acharyas that they have given us. Thus, there is no doubt at all about the Vedic mantras which appear in the works accepted by the Sampradaya. The Sampradaya is very necessary. Disciplic Sampradaya, disciplic succession. Krishna talks about this in the Gita. Evam param prapto, imam rajarshayo vidahu. That this knowledge was passed down previously in the disciplic succession. The disciplic succession of the Gita, according to Krishna, was broken. Therefore, Krishna spoke the Gita again over 5,000 years ago to Arjuna in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Okay, so tomorrow we're going to talk a little bit about Sampradaya, or disciplic succession. And now it is time to answer your questions. Okay. We'll stop sharing. We'll allow you to unmute yourselves. And you got 10 minutes to ask your questions. Okay, ask your question now or forever hold your peace. Not forever. Or till tomorrow, hold your peace. So, any questions or comments does anyone have about any of the terminology or anything that's a little confusing? Hrishikesh, you have a question?
Hare Krishna, Gurudev. This is my obeisances.
My blessings.
Gurudev, I have a question about Vedas. Krishna says in Gita that among Vedas he is to be known. That most of the Vedas deal with only the three modes of material nature. They don't
Right.
talk about Krishna. So how are we supposed to know about Krishna with Vedas?
Well, you're supposed to know, but that's been described in today's class. Because the only way you will know is if you accept the Vedas through what? Disciplic succession. Because the Vedas contain a lot of practical information of dealing in this world. Just like, even myself, I speak about a lot of practical things during the day to people. If we're doing construction, or like, all right, here's an example. One of my friends today blessed me by putting a little bump in my car. Not my Tesla, don't worry about it. I have another one, Prius. So this person was driving it, and they put a little beauty mark on the car. So I had to give information that was connected to Krishna's service, but wasn't let's say, eternal information, but it was connected and necessary in Krishna service. I said, you go to this particular body shop. Now, for those of you who are not from America, a body shop is not a beauty parlor. Some of you may think like, for those of you, in overseas, I think it's called a smash place. Like in Australia, it's a smash place. But here it's called a body shop. Okay. So I said to this person, who should remain nameless to protect the guilty person, I said to this person, you go to a body shop, and here's the name of a body shop. So all connected to Krishna's service, but it's not transcendental information. It's all part of service to Krishna. So the Vedas give us instruction in so many practical things. There's the Ayurveda talking about health stuff. There's the Jyotish Shastras talking about astrology, which we mentioned this morning we don't worry about because even if you're cursed, if you become Krishna conscious, the curse doesn't work anymore. So you don't have to worry about it. And so many Rahus, Krishna says, he can kick with the tip of his toes so many Rahus. Rahu means inauspicious things away. So, therefore, the Vedas are the same. They want to give instruction in practical things. Why shouldn't people be practical in this world too? That's part of life. I think most of my day is doing practical things. Making plane reservations or talking to people about management or GBC stuff. It's not, it's transcendental. It's connected to Krishna in that particular sense, but it's practical. So the Vedas are like that too. So therefore, you practical. It's called hermeneutics. Here's a big word for you. You need a practical understanding of what is transcendental and what is just like for certain time, place, and circumstance. So you need that. You need someone to explain it to you. Otherwise, they're going to be talking about body shops as something transcendental. The Guru Maharaj sent me to a body shop. So,
Thank you, Gurudev. Thank you.
okay, that's easy to understand. All right, thank you. Good question. So, Abhay Chaitanya, you have a question. You have your hand raised. Going once, going twice. I guess you don't hear me or whatever. Okay, so who else has a question? You can type in the text window or you can raise your hand or you can unmute yourself. So who else has a question? Someone else must have a question. Yeah, Vai Chaitanya's hand is still raised, but I guess he can't unmute himself for some reason or other. Who else? Okay, he unraised. Brahmaji, Lord Brahma, you have a question. You can unmute yourself.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble references and all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
All glories to Prabhupada.
During the class, he said, liberated souls are free from Maya. And I thought I also heard you say, liberated souls like us. Did you say that or did I mishear it?
Conditioned souls like us.
Okay, conditioned souls like us. Yeah, because I was confused. I was like, how can...
Both liberated souls and conditioned souls are like us. But liberated souls are like us in nature. That's true. Okay, that's what's confused. We all have the same nature, but they've chosen the right thing. Just like, or getting back to the cars again, because of thinking about cars and body shops. Getting back to cars, like a good driver and a bad driver both have the same nature. They both are human beings, right? But one's a good driver. They both have the same nature, but they're expressing that nature differently. How about that? That's a good way to explain it.
Okay. I also have another question, if I can ask, or if
yeah, go ahead.
Um, Brahma, when we were talking about Brahma and he receives the knowledge from Krishna, right? First,
Right.
um, but does Brahma, we are in the Brahma Madhva Sampradaya,
Right.
we get devotion because, in our succession, we get from the previous acharyas who have bhakti in their hearts.
Yes.
But did Brahma get bhakti from Krishna? Where
Yes.
did Brahma get his
Yeah.
bhakti from?
Brahma got bhakti from, well, sometimes we say, that's a good question. Sometimes we say bhakti is independent. So Brahma got bhakti from Bhakti herself because he followed Krishna's direction. By showing his sincerity, Krishna was his guru. Okay. Krishna is Lord Brahma's guru. There wasn't anyone else to be his guru. However, Bhakti gave herself to Lord Brahma because Bhakti is an expansion of Srimati Radharani and, connected with Lakshmi Devi. So Bhakti gave herself to Lord Brahma because Lord Brahma showed his sincerity by following his Guru Maharaj. And his Guru Maharaj was Krishna. And Krishna gave him the instructions, you perform tapasya, and Lord Brahma performed tapasya, and then he got bhakti because he had his faith. Doshradata sarusangota bhajana kriya. So he had faith, he followed the directions nicely, he impressed Krishna, Krishna blessed him, bhakti blessed him, and he got it. Okay?
Thank you, Maharaj.
All right, good questions. So, who else has a question here? If not, we can end. It's almost time. All right, I think, let me just check one thing. All righty, I think we are ready to end. All right, thank you very much. We'll see everybody tomorrow, same time, same station. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.